I think the marketing industry, and I come from the marketing industry, so I can say this, is guilty of not actually really trying to understand people. I think very often the marketing industry takes data and runs with a trend as if it were a gospel, not understanding the root of that trend, whether that trend is healthy or unhealthy. Just the fact that it's a trend means we should do it. For example, kids these days are doing everything on apps. That means we need to make more apps. But has anybody ever asked, is that healthy? Well, I think really great marketers, like really great leaders, do two things. They have unique ability to empathize and understand, and they have a unique perspective on the world. So let's start with empathy. Let's empathize with a generation that seems to confound our modern day. I think these millennials confound marketers, but even as I travel around, 100% of the talks that I give, no joke, and 100% of the meetings that I have, people will raise their hand, someone will raise their hand and ask the question, the millennial question, the millennial problem. Apparently they're unleadable. Apparently they're narcissistic, and apparently they're entitled, as they've been told. And if you're a millennial sitting in this room, how many times have you been told that you're entitled? Yeah, oh, you're nodding, okay. I think we as marketers and we as business people have done a very poor job of truly empathizing and truly understanding this generation. I've made 4 observations that I think help break it down. One is parenting, the other one is technology, the third one is impatience, and the last one is environment. We have to truly understand people if we want to talk to people. So let's talk about parenting. This young generation has been subject to what has been described as a failed parenting strategy. Many of them were raised being told the entire time that they're special and that they can have anything they want just because they want it. Some of them got into honors classes not because they deserved it, but because their parents complained, and some of them got A's not because they earned them, but because the teachers didn't want to deal with the parents. This is the generation that was given participation ribbons, in other words, medals for coming in last. And the data on this is clear already, that it devalues the feelings for the people who actually work hard to come in first, and it makes those who come in last actually feel stupid. It makes them feel worse because they know they don't deserve it. It actually is counterproductive. Then all of a sudden, they graduate school, they get a job, and something happens. They discover immediately that they're not special. They discover immediately that they cannot have whatever they want just because they want it. They discover immediately that their parents cannot help them get a promotion, and you get nothing for coming in last. In fact, I've heard stories where parents are filling out job applications for their kids or showing up to interviews with their kids. This is insane. But the point is in a flash, their entire self-image is completely shattered. And what you find is that there's an entire generation that's growing up with less self-confidence than previous generations. Also, don't forget, they've grown up in a Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook world where they are extremely good at filtering and curating the lives the way they want us to see them, not the way they actually are. They sound tough. And we do as they say because they seem to confound us. So we ask them, what do you want? And they say, we want bean bags and free food at work. And so we give them bean bags and free food and nothing changes. That's like asking kids, do you want candy or spinach? They sound like they know all the answers and they keep telling you that you should listen to them. And at the end of the day, there's fear, there's anxiety, there's uncertainty, and they don't know the answers. But they are extremely good at putting on a brave face. Lower self-esteem, and an ability to hide it, which then goes into technology. This is a generation that has grown up with technology unlike any other previous generation, right? We know that when we engage with social media or our cell phones, there's a chemical in our body called dopamine that is released. Now, dopamine is the same chemical that makes us feel good when we cross something off our to-do lists, when we find something we're looking for, like, here are my keys, right? When you win the client, right? When you hit the goal, yes, that feeling, that elation, comes from this chemical in our body called dopamine. Well, we know that dopamine is released when we engage with social media or our cell phones, right? It's why it feels good when our phones go buzz, bing, flash, or beep. Yes, we all hate all our email. We love the buzz, bing, flash, or the beep, right? We've all had the experience where you're feeling a little down, you're feeling a little bit sorry for yourself. What do? You send out 10 texts to 10 friends. Hi, 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 hoping that one of them responds because it feels good, right? So we also know that there are other things that release dopamine, like alcohol, nicotine, and gambling. And so almost all addiction is a dopamine-based addiction. We know that almost all alcoholics discovered alcohol when they were teenagers. When we're very, very young, the only approval we need is approval from our parents. Then as we get older, we go through this conversion during adolescence, where we now crave the approval of our peers. Very, very stressful time, very, very full of high anxiety, and we're supposed to learn to rely on our friends. Some people, quite by accident, discover the numbing effects of dopamine, discover alcohol, and that connection becomes hardwired. So for the rest of their lives, whenever they suffer some sort of stress, they don't turn to a person, they turn to the bottle, right? Now, we have age restrictions on alcohol, smoking, and gambling, and we have no age restrictions on social media or cell phones. This is the equivalent of throwing open a liquor cabinet and saying to our teenagers, hey, I know this adolescence thing is going to be really stressful. Try the vodka, it'll get you through it. That's ostensibly what we're doing. We give unfettered access to a highly, highly addictive device to a generation whose brains are not strong enough yet to discern, which is why we have age restrictions on alcohol, nicotine, and gambling. Because the young mind is not yet developed enough to make those decisions. And so what we have is an entire generation growing up with an addiction that has not yet been labeled an addiction. More importantly, an inability to deal with stress. Because they haven't learned those coping mechanisms of turning to a human being, they turn to devices. This produces some really negative effects. We're starting to see amongst this generation increases in suicide. We're seeing increases in accidental deaths due to drug overdoses. We're seeing increases in depression. Universities are dealing now with in epidemic proportions of kids requesting leaves of absence due to depression and an over-reliance on drugs to make them feel better. I have a friend, she's 28 years old, she was over my apartment, and we were working together, and it hit about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, she opens up her bag and pops an Adderall. And I turned to her and go, what are you doing? She goes, I'm having trouble concentrating. I said, that's because it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. She had convinced herself that it was her, that her inability to concentrate in the afternoon was because she was somehow broken, and that her mind was somehow not working, and the only way she saw to fix that was that she took a pill because she wanted to maintain optimal productivity all day, which is not how human beings work. So you have lower self-esteem and an inability to cope with stress. They haven't learned coping mechanisms and the ability to rely on or ask for help from another human being. And then you add in the third one, impatience. This is a generation that has grown up in a world of instant gratification. If you want to buy something, you go on Amazon and it shows up the next day. If you want to watch a movie, you don't check movie times, you just stream it whenever you want to watch it. You don't wait week to week to week to watch a TV show. You just binge watch the whole weekend, right? In fact, if you want to go on a date, you just swipe right. You don't even have to learn the skill set of like, hey. You can be a stud, sit on your couch, 4 dates in an afternoon. And so the problem is now they believe that everything in their lives can happen instantaneously, including relationships and job fulfillment. And nothing could be further from the truth. They think it's like a scavenger hunt. You hear this, right? I talk to amazing, smart, ambitious, idealistic, hardworking, fantastic kids. They're right out of school, they're in their entry-level jobs, and I'll sit down with them and I go, how is it going? And they say to me, I think I'm going to quit. And I say, why? They say, I'm not making an impact. I am like, you've been here 8 months, right? And so what they do is they go from job to job to job. They keep quitting their jobs, or they get fired. It's always, it's a mutual understanding. And they keep going as if they're looking to make an impact. They're looking to find the job of their dreams. It's like looking for love. It's not like, here it is, found it. Love is not something you find. It's something you work hard every single day to stay in love. You don't discover job fulfillment. You work very hard every single day of your life to keep fulfillment in your job. And the problem is they want all of those feelings of anxiety that they have, the feelings of insecurity or loneliness that they have, and they want it all fixed immediately. So they go looking and looking and looking and looking and not finding anything. 28 years old, had 5 jobs. They tell me, these are their words, not mine, that they struggle to form deep, meaningful relationships. Many of them will admit that most of their friendships are superficial, that they cannot rely on their friends in dark times, and that they would not be surprised if their friends canceled on them because some better plans came up. They will admit this. And they will admit that they struggle to form the deep, meaningful relationships that are required to be a successful human being. As social animals, we need close relationships. Technology cannot fill the gap. I love technology. There's nothing wrong with technology. The problem is balance. It can live alongside our lives. It can live alongside our relationships. It cannot replace our relationships. If I were to come to your house for dinner, and you make me a lovely dinner, and the next day I send you an email saying, what a wonderful host you are, what a wonderful time I had. Or 3 days later, you get a handwritten note from me with the exact same words as were in the email. Which one makes you feel better? Handwritten note. Same words, same intent, same sentiment. The difference is we know, you know, it took me a few extra moments, it took me a little more time and a little more energy to send you that note, and you felt it. Time and energy. We're using technology to try and eliminate human time and energy, but it's time and energy, the sacrifice of those non-redeemable commodities, that makes human beings feel valued and valuable. I hear this all the time. I talk to executives, and they always try to say to me proudly, we really care that our employees love working for our company. I'm like, how do you know that? Did you hire some outside consultancy to conduct an online survey of your employees to see if they love working there? And they go, yeah. I'm like, okay, riddle me this, Batman. What if you were to send an email to your son? Dear son, your mom and I really care that you feel like you're a valuable member of this family. Please tell me candidly how we can be better parents, because we love you. Love, Dad. Or you walk into his room, you sit on his bed, and you say, son, your mom and I really care that you feel like you're a valuable member of this family. Please tell me what you think we can do better as parents, because we love you. Same words, same intention, same sentiment. The only difference is in only one of those examples, does he feel you care? And this is the other problem. It's the environment that we're creating with so much technology.